So we're doing Tehillim. This is Perek Hey. So this is the 5th chapter of Tehillim. So we're going to start by looking at the first word, which is Lamnatseach. There's 10 types of song that David HaMelech speaks about. 10 different expressions of his inner experience to Hashem, of his yearning to Hashem. They're called songs. And interestingly, just to point out, I'll just tell you, sometimes you can't think clearly. I know for me, maybe it's just because I've had so much mental health issues, and I never actually fully recovered in terms of being able to have the same type of clarity mentally, to be able to think clearly. So it's hard for me to think a lot of times. But I need to think. And then in my hibodedut, when I want to really pour my heart out, then it's even most incumbent, it's most important that I am able to think and to talk. Because if I can't think, I can't speak. So as time has gone on, one of the most amazing things about Rabbi Nachman's teachings is he gives you so many tools. Like, a lot of rabbis, you listen to their classes, and maybe they say something that you resonate with, maybe they say something that inspires you, but you don't necessarily have a physical tool to go apply in your life when you face a difficulty or obstacle. And Rabbi Nachman gives you tool after tool after tool after tool. And there was a time that I was very, very frustrated because I had to use all of them. And it was exhausting. But then I realized as time went on how lucky and fortunate I am. That if I need so much just to be functional, just to be healthy, just to be happy, just to help, nobody else could have or has ever given me one of those tools. He gave me all of them. So, I usually start every prayer just by thanking Hashem for Rabbi Nachman. He literally saved my life. He saves my life every single day. Literally. And so therefore, one of the things that he saves my life with is song. That he explains in Likutei Moharan, much later in Likutei Moharan, something very, very deep. We know in Kabbalah that there's different levels of reality. And those different levels are connected to your inner soul. So therefore, you have thought, right? You guys think sometimes. And you guys have feelings. And you have actions, right? So why is it that you think up here and not over here? Why is it that the locus or the essence of your feeling comes from your heart and not up here? Why is it that your weapons of action are your hands and your feet and they're not here? And everything is specific. Everything is corresponding to spiritual reality. Meaning the higher up you go in your body, the closer you're getting to Hashem, so to speak. And your thought corresponds to a place that's higher than your feelings. And your feelings correspond to a place that's higher than your actions. That's why even though a person who has negative thoughts, there's no consequences for that in terms of the Torah. But the sages and the Kabbalists explain that there's actually often deeper consequences for your thoughts than there are for your actions, because your thoughts are rooted in a higher place. So therefore they're more powerful and they have a more far-reaching effect. Okay? Is there anything above thought? Is there anything above wisdom? So there is. It's called song. It's called singing. And I know for me that when I have trouble thinking, let's say it was years ago and I was just having a rough emotional time. Baruch Hashem, Hashem has helped me a lot with a lot of that, and it's a lot less of that now. And it's more just of crazy stuff that Hashem has me deal with internally, but thank God, I'm happy. But there was many years, the most of my life, that I was not. So how do you break through that and talk to Hashem? Sometimes you can't even speak. Sometimes you don't even want to talk. You don't have words, or you don't even know how to place your words. So Rabbi Nachman says, sing. And you don't even have to sing a song with words. You could just sing a tune. And people think, and they try it, and they go, oh wow, you start to feel more open. You start to feel like you can talk more, and you think maybe it's just he saw, maybe he was singing and he felt happier, and now you can talk more. It's so much deeper than that. Because Rabbi Nachman says that in the highest of spiritual universes, Hashem created everything b'chokhmah. There's a pasuk that says you created everything b'chokhmah, with wisdom. Chokhmah is one of the highest of the Kabbalistic sefirot, meaning the tools or the energies or the forces which Hashem uses to continue to create and recreate reality. But there's something that's higher than Chokhmah that we know very little about, because it's so high, it's literally right next to Hashem, to the extent that we don't know the difference between that highest sphere and Hashem. That's called Keter. And from Keter comes song. So song is even above wisdom. So therefore, even if your mind is clouded, and even if your emotions are heavy, and even if your actions, your body is low, still you can sing now. And by singing, you can actually repair all of it. You can rectify all of it. Why? Because the whole concept of tikkun, of repair, means bringing things back to their source. So the source of your actions is your feelings. So if you fix your feelings, you'll fix your actions. The source of your feelings is your thoughts. So if you fix your thoughts, you'll fix your feelings. But what if you have issues with your thoughts? What can you do to fix your thoughts? There's nothing above thoughts, seemingly, there in my brain. The answer is you have a level of your soul that's above your mind. It's called song. And if you sing even though you don't feel like it, you force yourself to sing, you'll see that your mind clears, your emotions clear, and your actions clear. So what is something that I practice every single day? And this was after just trial and error. I never had a teacher per se. I had Rabbi Nachman teaching me from his books, and I never had the zchut to have a teacher in person who could teach me. And I think one of the reasons is so that I could give over that trial and error experience for years to my students now. Because it's a very hard experience to have to have no idea how to function in life, and no idea how to get by from day to day and from moment to moment. To have Rabbi Nachman give you all these beautiful tools, but not know when to use what and how to do what, and you start to get to know yourself. And you do whatever it takes to get yourself to be the best you can be that day, because that's all you can do. What's the alternative? That you feel bad all day? I'm tired of that. I hate that. I want to be happy. So, but what am I going to do if I can't think and I can't feel right and I can't act right? You can sing. And if you sing just a nigun, meaning it doesn't even have words, you just sing it over and over and over, you'll see that everything inside of you starts to melt away. And when you start to get lifted up a little bit with joy, now you can go talk. So that's what I do. I sing, and then I thank Hashem for all the things in my life. Because if I thank Hashem before I start singing, it's not going to be genuine for me because I'm having a tough day. But if I sing first, now I can bring myself to a place that I feel clear. Now I can really thank. And then after I'm done thanking, and I want to start to work, let's say, on talking about my lackings and things I'm struggling with, so I need more song for that now, because that's even harder than thanking. So now I have to do another song, get myself feeling even better. Why? Because it's very clear amongst the Hasidic masters, and even in the sages of old, it's impossible to do tshuva when you're sad. It's impossible to talk to Hashem about really wanting to work on things in your life while you're not happy. Because why? It brings you to despair. It brings you to Yeush. So why do the sages say that you should thank before you should ask for help? Because the thanking itself brings you to hope, because you realize Hashem is in your life. By thanking for everything in your life, you realize that Hashem really is there, even though you've only been paying attention to the negative things. Now that you feel that Hashem is with you, now I can pray to Hashem not from despair, but from hope for something to change. You guys see the difference? So I sing again, and then I talk about the things that I'm struggling with. And then after that, I'm spent. So I do another song. I sing again. And then I ask Hashem for help in all these things that I need. And then I sing again, and I end. But you see that David's always singing. Amatseach, Mizmor. Why is he starting every single of his Hibodedut sessions, which turned into Tehillim, with a song? Because David needed to sing in order to talk about his darkness. He needed to sing in order to overcome his struggles in his life. And Rabbi Nachman says explicitly, because David became so proficient in song, he became so skilled in song, he became so connected and became so one with the concept of singing within the difficulties, it is for that exact reason that he became the Mashiach, that he becomes the king of the Jewish people. It's a very deep lesson. We're not going to get into exactly what song has to do with that. But because he became so connected to song, and that was what allowed him to overcome everything, he was then able to become the shepherd of the Jewish people and to lead them to redemption when he was alive. And then his son, Ben David, the Mashiach, who is a reincarnation and a further revelation of the soul of David, to do the same thing. That it says Yodea Nagen, he knows song. It doesn't just mean that he understands it, it means his whole way he perceives life is through music. What does it mean, music? So Rabbi Nachman says that a song is when you have a musical scale. Let's say you play the guitar. So you have an E and an F and a G and a D minor. And so those are all notes. But those notes don't always go together. They only go together for certain songs, some of those notes. And for another song, other notes go together. So how do you make a song? You pick the good notes. And you don't play the bad notes. You allow them to melt away. And when you have one good note, you try to find another good note that connects to that good note. And then you find another good note that connects to that note. And what happens? You created a song. So what's the concept of song? He calls it a zamra. It's called finding the good points in your life. Find one, he says. You're struggling, you're having a terrible day, you're suffering. Now when you come to Hashem to do Hibodedut, how do you open your mouth? Find something good in your life. Say one good thing about yourself. Oh, but I can't think of like all these things. Don't think about all. Think of one good thing. And when you have one, go find another one. And then go find another one. And then you create a song. And once you start singing a zamra, now you can talk about the things in your life without going into despair. Now you can ask Hashem for help in your life with hope for the future. And this is why Rabbi Nachman says his most important lesson is a zamra, to focus on the good points. Because then every time you do that, you're creating music. And music is higher than thought, and it's higher than emotion, and it's higher than action. It was me and my wife's date night last night, and it happened to be Tu B'Av, so it was great, Hashkacha Pratit. I haven't watched movies in years. We can get into why that is another time. If you want to ask questions at the end, you can. But my wife really likes to watch movies. And so we figured out that like I could watch like a PG anime movie, like a cartoon like from Disney. This is something that we can meet halfway. It's light and it's funny, which my wife likes. She doesn't like heavy like I do. And then it'll be PG. Because you can only be like till 5 years old to watch something like that. So that's how I fit into that category. And we watched something called Inside Out. I don't know if you guys ever seen this cartoon movie. Oh my gosh, the amount of chokhmah in this movie was insane. The amount of it was so deep. I remember I was watching my wife, the whole entire time I was like, oh my gosh, it's the deepest movie I've ever seen. And I haven't seen movies in a long time, that maybe I just haven't seen a movie in so long that but it really was really deep. I'm still thinking about the movie today. It was so psychological. I went to school for psychology and for social work. It's about a girl. She's born to a family in the Midwest, the parents in the Midwest. The whole thing's a cartoon, but and it's from the perspective of her mind, not her herself, but so to speak, every emotion in her had a person in her mind. Anger had a person, and sadness had a person, and joy had a person. And how each of those people in the mind, when they wanted her to be angry or sad or whatever, they pressed the button, and then she got angry or sad and happy or whatever. And when she was a child, it was going well. This whole system was working out fine. But then they moved to San Francisco, and it was a very difficult transition. And the dad ended up working a lot and didn't have time to be home. The mother was now struggling with her adolescent, turning into a teenager, and then her losing all her friends. And then all of a sudden, some of her emotions, they got lost from the control center. And they went into the recesses of the mind where they were not supposed to be. But then through their falling there, they actually rectified the entire... It was so deep, oh my gosh. Is your wife's favorite movie? Are you serious? It was so spiritual. It's I don't know if you guys know, there's a concept called the Arizon. He's the greatest Jewish mystic who ever lived, and Rabbi Nachman derived a lot of his teachings from the Arizal, but he made them simple and practical, because the Arizal is very difficult. There's a concept of fallen sparks of godliness, that when Hashem created the world, He created it with pure godliness, but the vessels with which He gave that godliness over to were not able to hold and contain that light. It was too intense. The vessels broke, and those sparks of godliness that were in them broke with them, so to speak, and went down into exile with them. And it's the job of the Jewish people, actually, over time, from the beginning of creation to the end, to lift up all of those fallen sparks. And when all of those sparks are redeemed, the redemption is going to take place. And in a very deep, deep way, we also, each of us represents one of those fallen sparks that broke and is in exile. And it's the job of the tzaddik to come down to the darkest places and to take each of us up and out. And I don't know why I'm telling you that.
The movie.
Yeah, but what about the movie? What? Date night. Yeah, date night. Tuba.
They went to the mines where they weren't supposed to go to.
Yeah. It all kind of made sense after? Okay. Something, so I was going for something with that. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, Hashem will help me remember. Okay. But anyway, all of her emotions were broken, so to speak. As time goes on in your life, things take place in every person's life that he has certain core memories, and they were focusing on the movie when I was in school. They taught us about this, that every person, when they're a child, they have certain moments that stand out in their life. One really happy moment when they felt really, really loved. And that, so to speak, creates their core belief towards love from others for the rest of their life. And that they have an experience where they get bullied, let's say. And that experience of being bullied now causes them to feel insecure in that core emotion for the rest of their life until they work to rectify it. Or let's say somebody abandoned you. You were abandoned, and it happened when you were young. It's all specifically when you're young. The younger you are, the deeper of the effect it has. and it becomes a core memory. And now that you have been, so to speak, left, now for the rest of your life, you see the world through that experience of being left. And everything, so to speak, is distorted by those core emotions or thoughts that were created in those moments of you trying to integrate reality into your life. But in the end, what fixes those things? So Rabbi Nachman says it's song that fixes all of it. It's the concept of song. And this is why in Chassidut, all the Hasidic masters and all of their followers and anybody who is involved in Chassidut, whether you're Chabad or you're Breslov, Bobov or Satmar, or there's over like 100 Hasidic sects, but every single one of them is busy singing all of the time. They're all singing. Why are they constantly singing? Even when they learn Torah together, they sing and then they learn. They sing and they pray. They're always singing. Why? Because singing has a very deep effect on the Jewish soul, and it lifts it up and above all darkness. And even just in your practical experience, I'm sure you know that when you're alone and you sing, you feel happy. No matter what's going on, you sing a good song, your favorite song that you like, and all of a sudden, even if you have a really hard day, a really terrible day, you just all of a sudden start to feel uplifted. And you think it's just because I like music, I connect. It's much deeper than that. To the extent that Rabbi Nachman says, it's very good advice for every single Jewish person to constantly have a song playing for themselves. Doesn't mean on a record, because he didn't have that, meaning you're always singing a song to yourself. When you're washing the dishes, you're singing a song. When you're playing with your kids and they're taking a break and they're doing something else, sing a song to yourself. It doesn't have to be loud that everyone, but that you should get in the habit of always singing. Okay? Lamatzeach an hanchilot mizmor David. So he starts with a song. And what's the song, Lamatzeach? This song comes from the root word natseach. What does natseach mean? It means to be victorious. It means to overpower. It means to conquer, to overcome. Now, it's a very interesting thing because David starts a lot of his songs like this, Lam Natseach. What does that have to do with song? So this is something that Rabbi Nachman teaches a lot, that he talks how important this is. And this is something that's clearly not emphasized by anyone else, and in fact, it's frowned upon in many places. And anyone who hears these teachings for the first time, if they grew up, let's say, traditional or religious, it's very hard for them to understand how this could be. But Rabbi Nachman constantly stresses that when you pray to Hashem, it should be in a way of l'matzeach, that you are arguing and fighting and advocating with Hashem. And what does that look like? Imagine when you were a child, or let's say you still are like this with your parents, that your parents don't give you what you want, but you really want it. So what do? Do you sit down and you quietly, do you listen with reason and come back with the greatest amount of tranquil understanding and response? Or do you kind of revert back to like a 5-year-old and just pester and pester until you get what you want? The answer is the last one. Because this is the relationship of a child with their parent, no matter how old they get. So now, why does Rabbi Nachman say that's the case? Because this is our relationship with Hashem. And if we want Hashem to help us, we need to treat it the same way you would treat your parents. A lot of people, when they come to speak to Hashem, they talk to him in a very formal, very emotionless, very stiff way, frozen. But Rabbi Nachman says the key to overcoming everything in your life is to be limnatseach, to advocate for yourself to Hashem, to complain to Hashem, to pester Hashem, to keep pestering him until he gives you what you want. Yes?
Is it a bad thing to
So that's what you usually learn, that it is a bad thing.
Because I just remember reading before the Jewish people was complaining.
That's a different type of complaining than he's speaking about. The complaining that he's speaking about is coming from a place of gratitude. The complaining that the Torah is speaking about, that Hashem is really not fond of, is when a person is not recognizing any of the good in his life, and then is asking as if Hashem never did anything for him. But if a person is coming from a place of recognition of all the good, but still wanting a tremendous change in their life, so Hashem loves that type of pester.
So first thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not complaining. So like I'm thinking something like, oh, why is this happening? Why are you doing this?
No, it's a pestering. You're annoying him. You continue to annoy him until he helps you. Not because you think that he's not there for you, not because you think that he's not helping you, but because you really think this thing is important, you really think this thing is good. He hasn't given it to you yet. So does any parent not want their kid to be happy? No, every parent wants their kid to be happy.
So you're talking about persistence.
Yes, persistence, but specifically pestering. I mean it literally. That you come with every single argument that you can. Rabbi Nachman says in many, many different places, when you come to Hashem to ask for things, don't be so tight.
is it because you believe he's going to give it to you? But when they were complaining, they believed that he was not.
Exactly.
That he forgot.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Your pestering shows that you do believe in Hashem, right? Their pestering was because they didn't believe in Hashem. They were pestering Moshe because they were talking about how good their life was when they were slaves.
I remember a specific one when that happened to me. I remember taking something upon myself, and then I went and tried something I needed to do, but I couldn't find the part and I was in the seat, and I'm like, Hashem. I was like, driving, and I'm like, what is going on? And my baby with me, and always his baby there. I'm like, I'm gonna something to do it. And I'm like, Hashem, what happened? There's no parking. And as soon as I said that, the car just ran over and it came out like so fast. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you.
That's a great example. And you know what happens after that? A person feels guilty. Maybe I shouldn't have talked like that. That's a big mistake. Hashem loves that. Hashem loves when you speak to him like that.
So this is in terms of requesting everything?
Yeah.
Materialistic things,
Everything.
not specifically just spiritual.
No, Rabbi Nachman, this is also something he emphasized. Don't just pray for spiritual things. Pray for everything. You want a car, pray for a car. You want a house, pray for a house. You want to get a nice meal tonight with your husband, then he hasn't taken you out to dinner in a few years. Pester Hashem. No, I'm just saying it. He likes that. He loves it. He really, really loves that. And you're going to see he's going to answer. And it's not because, oh, here you go. It's because he loves the fact that you're relying on him so much, you believe in him so much, you're not giving up on this thing. You should have seen the way that Rabbi Nachman used to pray to Hashem. Oh my gosh.
Is this the extent of the effort? Just that? Or do you have to do something else?
If you pester enough and you believe enough, it could be the extent of the effort. If you don't believe enough and you don't hope enough, then you're probably going to have to exert more effort than that. But if you get to the point that you really understand, like Rabbi Nachman did, that everything he says is possible through prayer, everything. When they said everything, what do you mean everything? He means literally everything. But how come I pray and I don't have all those things? And the answer is because you don't yet really truly believe that everything is possible through prayer. But at the moment that if you could ever really truly believe that all you have to do is ask for things to Hashem to get them, then Hashem will do those things for you. Because when Hashem took the Jews out of Mitzrayim, he said, tell them my name is Eker Asher Eker. I will be what I will be. So it's a very ambiguous name, Can you imagine that, Chas v'shalom, you had children, grandchildren, who ended up being slaves, and you were not around. And all of a sudden, there is a family member who you realize he can go and take them out of slavery. And they come to you and you tell them, come, I want you to take them out. How are they going to know and believe it's me? Tell them my name. What's your name? I'll be what I'll be. Moshe's like, you bugging. No. What type of name is that? Oh, I'm going to be what I'm going to be. They've been suffering for 200 years in slavery. Tell them what your name is. And the answer is, he was telling them the deepest, deepest, deepest thing. Do you know why you've been slaves for 200 years? Do you know why you can continue to be slaves? Do you know why a person is a slave in his life? Because I will be whatever you allow me to be in your life. That's what it means, I will be what I'll be. If you believe that through prayer, I can help you 25% of the way and you have to do 75% of the rest, I will be that for you. If you believe that I can answer your prayers 50% and you're going to have to do 50% physical hishtadlut and go take care of it yourself, I could do that for you also. And if you believe in me 100%, I can take you out of slavery today. Whatever you want me to be, I'll be for you. And that's what they needed to know. Because what's the reason that a Jewish person is enslaved psychologically, emotionally, physically, financially? Because he only believes in Hashem in a certain way. And if he could believe in him more than that certain way, then he's freer. And if he could ever get to the point that he believes in Hashem 100%, and how do you express that? It's through your prayer. I'll do that for you also. You know, the Gemara says it's as hard for Hashem to find you your zivug as it is for him to split the sea. Okay, so this was Tu B'Av, and a lot of people are looking for their partner. And this is a special day that we just had today to get your prayers answered, so to speak, even though every day is really like that, but Tu B'Av has a special energy because this is the day that Jewish men and Jewish women thousands of years ago used to meet and get married. It was the happiest day of the year, according to the Gemara. And in fact, there's a place in the Gemara that says that it was the holiest day of the whole year. Tu B'Av, over Yom Kippur, over Rosh Hashanah, over everything, this day. So, yeah, today is a special day, Tu B'Av.
Yeah.
Benny, help me out. What was I just saying? Before that. Before that, like. After that. What? Yeah, arguing with Hashem. Yeah. Oh, okay, I got it. Thank God. that it's as hard for Hashem to find you your zivug, your partner, as it is for him to have split the sea for the Jewish people. So the way that that's normally read is that it's very hard for Hashem to do it, and therefore when Hashem does it, it's like a miracle, that he did it just like it was a miracle, and that's true. But I have a chidush on this. And that is, it doesn't say how hard it is for him to split the sea. It just says it's hard for him to get your zivug as it is for him to split the sea. And how hard is that? Not hard at all. It's very easy for Hashem to do anything, but it's equally as easy or hard for me to do this as to do that. It all depends on what you believe. To the degree that you believe that he could be in your life, to that degree, you will experience it. This is something that I have taught my students for a very long time, and that Rabbi Nachman makes perfectly clear. And even though a person might hear this and go, yeah, and attribute it to psychological phenomenon, whatever, but it doesn't deny this reality I'm about to say. The world teaches you that when you see it, you'll believe it. It's true. You see it, I'll believe it. Especially women are like this. This is my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm sexist. I don't think so. But that women really need to see the proof for them to believe the proof. And And there's a reason for that, spiritually. But the real truth is that the way to see things is to believe first. Because it's not seeing that causes you to believe. It's actually belief that causes you to see. Because emunah is higher than sight. Like we just said, that chokhmah, that's connected sight. Wisdom, the mind, godliness is connected the eyes. That's the reason why Kabbalistically, in a very deep way, what your eyes look like, the color and all of that is very connected to your ability to understand things, your wisdom. You'll also probably notice that people who look exactly alike between like parents and kids, they have similar capacity for intelligence. It has a lot to do with the eyes. That's why I said Yosef had beautiful eyes and David had beautiful eyes, because it had to do with the way that they perceived reality, their vision. Okay, but there's something that's higher than sight. There's something that's higher than the mind. Like we said, that's called keter. Besides song, it's also the place of emunah, faith. That faith is even higher than wisdom. And anything spiritually that's higher, so try to stay with me a little bit, I'm trying to simplify it, is, so to speak, the father to that daughter, or the mother to that daughter. Meaning, your mind is higher than your emotions, I just told you. What does it mean? It means it's the source of your emotions. So in a very deep way, your mind gives birth to your emotions. The emotions are the child of your mind. And your actions, what's the source of your actions? It's your feelings. Your feelings are actually the mother of your actions. She gives birth to your actions. Everybody with me? Who is the grandfather? Who gives birth to the father, who is the way you perceive things, and the mother, that is your feelings? Your grandpa. What do you guys call it in Russian? What? Bobo? Siesta? Siesta. So when you talk to your siesta, yeah, siesta, yeah, your zaidi, yeah, your safta, that's actually emunah. Emunah is the highest part of your soul, and emunah is what gives birth to your perception. Faith is what gives birth to your perception of things. So when you believe in it, you'll see it. Why? Because it's actually faith that gives birth to reality, to your perception of things. So the more you believe in Hashem and how you believe in Hashem, that's how you experience Hashem. Not for psychological reasons, for spiritual reasons. Because it is a person's faith that is the highest part of their soul, and their faith is what gives birth to all of their reality. So for someone like me, for instance, that I was an atheist my whole life, what did that give birth to? Thoughts that were very dark, because I didn't have faith in the world, I didn't have faith in God, I didn't have faith in myself, I didn't have any faith in anything. So what does that give birth to? Very, very dark thoughts. And what do very dark thoughts give birth to? Very, very disturbed emotions. And what do very disturbed emotions give birth to? Very, very destructive actions. So it all starts with what you believe in. But now let's say you believe in something good. Now your thoughts are going to be good, and then your feelings are going to be good, and your actions are going to be good. So everything starts with your belief. And it's a spiral. If you believe that Hashem really loves you, that He really cares about you, that everything He does is for your best, you're going to see that. And when you see that, you're going to feel that. And when you feel that, you're going to act like that. But if you don't believe that, you won't see that, you won't feel that, you won't act like that. So it is faith that gives birth to reality. This is the reason why in the morning we say, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, Shechazarta li nishmati bechemla rabba amunatecha. Thank you for waking me up, that you gave me life today. Great is your emunah. So what does Rabbi Nachman teaches? The way that we usually learn that is, I'm alive today, that means you believe in me. Rabbi Nachman teaches that it's emunah itself. Great is your emunah, meaning emunah is what gave birth to life. You woke up today because of emunah, meaning what gives birth to life? It's faith. And where do we see this clearly? When a woman gives birth to a child. Because in Kabbalah, the womb is called faith, emunah. And it gives birth to human life, to actual life.
Is it having faith in God or not having faith in people?
It's all one thing. It's all connected.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I thought that the moon is formed by three things, by the actions, by the thoughts, and by the feelings. I act a certain way, if I do a certain, if I feel a certain way,
That's going to transform your emunah.
but you're saying it's the opposite.
No. So I'm saying it's the opposite because we understand that according to Kabbalah, your soul is organic. What does it mean that it's organic? When people usually think of organic, they think about Trader Joe's or something. But that's not what organic means. Organic means that there is a natural whole, that every part affects the other parts. So when something is organic, it means that the whole thing is natural, and therefore it looks natural, it tastes natural, it acts natural, every part of it's natural. But once something's not organic, then you create illness in the system, because part of it is going to affect more heavily and the other one's not going to be able to react as much. Yeah? So your soul is organic. That means that your feelings affect your thoughts affect your feelings, your actions affect your feelings, your actions affect your... So everything works every way. But I'm explaining that at the root, the highest part of your soul is called emunah, and actually the lowest part of your soul is called emunah. So this is the reason why it affects both. That when you have positive thoughts and positive feelings and positive actions, it's going to increase your emunah, because the lowest part of your soul is called emunah. But Rabbi Nachman's trying to get you in touch with the highest part of your soul, which is from the Keter, which is also called emunah. But this is emunah that's even higher than your thought. That's a belief that even precedes thought and feeling, that you believe just because you believe. And that belief itself gives birth to everything else. Yeah. They come from your faith.
But sometimes you don't think
Right. So good. So Rabbi Nachman says you should scream. I'm serious. Why you been doing that? People are going to think you're crazy. That's right. Or as my rabbis say, that's right. You know? What? I know, I was going to say, it's not just Bukharians, by the way. It's most Sephardi Jews. It's very hot in the Middle East, you know? So you guys couldn't take it anymore, I'm sure. It was frigid by us, in Eastern Europe, so we just became very subdued in our natures. We held it all in. There's a lot of... Yeah. So what do you do when you have negative thoughts? So I gave you one piece of practical advice. Obviously, you can't do that all the time. However, Rabbi Nachman actually does say that there is a way, if you're able to master this skill, that you can scream without yelling. That you could scream you could scream in your own mind. And yeah, so your negative thoughts are coming from your Yetzer Hara, because your mind, your godly soul, actually doesn't have negative thoughts. So when a Jew is having negative thoughts, it's not coming from his mind. It's coming from his heart. Because at the level of the mind of a Jew, it's perfect, and you can't touch it, you can't blemish it, no matter how much you've been through or what you've gone through in your life. Your mind is perfect. So why do I always experience negative thoughts? fear, anxiety, sadness, despair, they're coming from your heart, they're not coming from your mind. And Kabbalah explains that it's impossible for a Jewish person to experience his thoughts from his mind except filtered through his heart. So to the degree that your heart is rectified and clear, to that degree you can experience clear thoughts. And that's why Rabbi Nachman's teachings are focused on fixing the heart, because your mind is actually beautiful. The reason you haven't experienced beautiful thoughts from your mind is because those thoughts, when they reach your heart, are becoming darkened by your stuff. So Rabbi Nachman's main goal is to release the stuff from your heart, to give you the tools to release that stuff. And then once your heart becomes clear, your thoughts automatically, you'll see, are beautiful, because they've always been. It's just coming through a darker lens. So where is that coming from? So Rabbi Nachman says the biggest reason is called secular wisdom. Where are negative thoughts coming from? They're coming from information that you are hearing or learning from the secular world. More specifically, anything that's not rooted in spiritual reality. So let's say, for instance, when you watch the news and they tell you the COVID is going to take over the world and we're all going to die. Yeah? This is going to get worse and worse and worse. And you're saying, how am I going to function? Oh my gosh. Okay, so what is that? What is that based on? It's based on research, it's based on science, it's based on poll taking, it's based on theories. But all of these are man-made. They're all limited and finite, right? What's the problem with that? That there is something which is above that which is causing reality. That they admit themselves that they're not even paying attention to or not in tune to at all. So really they're only dealing with the effects, they're not dealing with the causes. Anyway, so when you're learning those things, that affects your heart. It affects your thoughts. It affects your feelings. It affects your actions. Right? And if they tell you if you were to stop watching, then you would be ignorant. Then you would be living in the primitive past. Why? Because it's a very, very deep web and system of lies. And society is trapped in this deep web. And this is also in a family. When you have a family, let's say you have an abusive family. So the child that wants to leave that family, he is going to get resistance from all sides. Why is he getting resistance? Because they're going to tell you, no, there's something wrong with you. You need to fix yourself. You need to work on yourself. When really, you're the only healthy one. So what do? You feel bad to leave. So you stay. But you're dying. You feel sad. You feel angry. You feel confused every time you're home. So I leave, but then they call me. I'm like, what's wrong with you? And then I feel bad, so I come back. Because systems are very intricate and they're very deep. And when they're societal, all the more so. So where does Rabbi Nachman say that a Jew's thoughts get distorted from? From secular wisdom. So the more you're able to extricate yourself from secular wisdom, the clearer and happier your thoughts are going to be. That's one thing. Another just practical piece of advice that Rabbi Nachman gives is that a human being can't think two thoughts at one time. So therefore, many people will tell you, just stop thinking about it. So Nachman you know this anyway, but he says it's not possible. You can't just stop thinking about something. So what can you do? You can either, what I told you before, you can scream. You can sing. You could scream. Or you can simply think another thought and force yourself to think another thought. Rabbi Nachman says that when you think another thought, you can't be thinking about the disturbing thought because you can't think about two things at one time. It's going to come back, right? So that's why this is a short-term fix, the thinking of one thought versus another thought. But what's a long-term fix? to the degree that you're able to extricate yourself from wisdom that's rooted in secular society, to that degree, you will rid yourself of fears, of sadness, of anxiety, of despair.
Well, what do you tell a 5-year-old who's like, "Oh, I'm scared of something"? I mean, I tell her to think about your birthday party, what cake you want, like another thought.
Yeah, and how does that work?
But that won't matter until if she's not gonna think about that. That's the way, I don't know.
Right. So I'll tell you a very deep thing, but it's gonna be hard to understand, but just think about it when you leave the class. And by the way, I heard from some certain people in the class that like sometimes we go over 10 and you guys don't feel comfortable leaving at that time and you're waiting for me to finish. So just know, like, as soon as 10 hits on any class, you go if you want to go. I might continue just because I feel like something's important to say or I'm answering questions, but that doesn't mean the class is still going, so you don't have to stay. I won't be offended. You won't be allowed back. I will put you in chayrim, but I won't be offended. So when you are able to, that you yourself are able to transform your negative thinking, and you yourself are able to overcome it, your kids will reflect that. Your children, why does Hashem give a person children? One of the reasons is because they mirror you. And people think that just means, okay, they're going to be like their parents, and it's much deeper than that. It's very hard for a person to be aware of his own strengths and lackings because it's hard for a person to see themselves truly. However, your children become the full expression of everything that's going on inside of you. And why does Hashem do that? So Rabbi Nachman teaches, and his students teach, it's in order for you to know what you need to work on. Okay, that's great, but my kids still have a problem. I don't want to see my kids struggling. And the answer is that when you fix it yourself, they fix as well.
So the fixing comes from us, as opposed to them. They don't have anything to fix.
They're children.
Do we help them fix it?
Right, but eventually.
Yeah, that you help them fix it by learning how to fix it. So in the short term, distract them. But while you're doing that, work on yourself. Long term. No, that's the long-term piece of advice I'm giving you right now, which takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you're going to have tremendous resistance, and that is to extricate yourself from secular wisdom. This is something that even the majority of the traditional Jewish world is not a big fan of, and one of the reasons is because they want to put the whole thing together so that a person has the ability to kind of live in every world that they want to. But Rabbi Nachman told all of his students that there's nothing more damaging for a Jewish soul than to experience secular wisdom, and it's a sore for you to look at it. Why? Because in Kabbalah they explain that your mind, because it's the highest part of yourself, has the furthest reaching effects in your body, in your heart, and everything. So whatever enters your mind manifests in every part of your reality. What's entering into your mind? Content, media, information. Now we think that because everybody's watching it, it's normal. But if you were able to, let's say, not watch TV for a week, you would see that it's not normal. That what they're showing you is not normal. It's not healthy. It's disturbing. And if you have any empathy for yourself, you'll try as hard as you possibly can to try as time goes on to move away from it, because it could be the cause of all of your suffering. And I'm not saying this because I'm not, what's the word? Yeah, I'm not I'm also not dogma, like I I don't have a, yeah, I don't have an agenda. I'm not like, I didn't grow up religious. I watched TV my whole life. I watched, all I did was watch TV and read books and literally acquire every piece of information that I could. And I became severely depressed as a result.
What if,
Yeah.
what if you have teenage kids who, at this point, feel like the only way that you want to have quality time
Is by watching things with them.
appropriate, let's say,
Yeah.
outweek portion.
Yeah.
Once in 2 weeks, yeah, they already watched it. And whatever, I try to compromise with them. I said, okay, one time we're going to do something spiritual, another time we're going to do shtuyot, then something academic.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be there. I'd rather listen to your lectures. Seriously. And I have to.
Right.
And I'm eating myself while I'm watching, so I'm wasting my time.
Right. Things like this take patience. So you have to think long and realize that over time, as you grow, your children are going to grow. And while your children are still children in your house, they have not yet been confronted by real life yet. And what's going to happen is they're going to come to the same conclusion as you when you left your home, or you're trying to leave your home, which is that there are certain things in my life that I'm not able to deal with. If you figure out by that point how to deal with those things, they're going to be looking for answers from you. And when you have answers for them, they're going to be able, now that they're adults, to make decisions that allow them to do the same. But if you're only starting this, let's say at 15 years old, it's going to be very hard for you at this point to put down the, I don't want you watching TV anymore, because they've been doing it for 15 years and that's where they get their joy from. So do the best that you can and pray to Hashem that you should be able to know yourself how to deal with life, and then eventually they're going to come to you, because the truth is that every child wants to be like their parents, even though that their parents might be completely disturbed. And even though their parents may be really struggling and therefore they don't want to be like their parents, but the truth is they really would love to be like their parents if their parents were healthy. Everybody wants their parents to be normal and healthy and capable, and that they could be like that. This is the normative way that a person is. So even when we reject our parents because they're not like that, and we need to in order to survive, still there is a lingering hope that something's going to happen to my parents that's going to allow them to, because this is the way that Hashem made us. So anyway, you have to think long term. When you start to learn a lot of Rabbi Nachman's teachings, you start to feel like, oh my gosh, I have to do something, and everyone else has to do something. Yeah? It's the Yetzer Hara clothed in a mitzvah. Rabbi Nachman teaches in the first Torah of Likutei Moharan, his magnum opus, there's something called what looks like a mitzvah, and it's really the Yetzer Hara. Meaning that you have an opportunity to do something that is good, but the Yetzer Hara uses your momentum to actually cause your demise. Meaning, because he knows that your intentions are good, no, you're not going to do something now that's going to hurt you, so he has to be very subtle and make you do a mitzvah. The mitzvah really is hurting you. So anyway, there's a lot of things that you have to learn. And it takes time. Even with Rabbi Nachman's teachings, there's so much that he talked about. There's so much he wrote about. And even now, when you hear something, I might say something right now, and it resonates you with okay. You might watch this class a year from now and be like, oh my gosh, that's what he meant. And then you might watch that class 5 years from now and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize. What was I even thinking that I didn't realize that was the deepest thing in the world? Why? Because you're changing. With Rabbi Nachman's Torah, it's something that you can continue learning the rest of your life. And every year that you come back to it, you're not going to perceive it the same way. Because you're different now. Any questions from tonight? Yeah.
What if your thoughts have nothing to do with society or the media? What if your thoughts are just so random and disturbing? Where is that? I know it obviously comes from the Yetzer Hara, but how?
So even if you're no longer, so the question was, do you mind if I repeat it? Yeah, people ask me also, like in the classes, like people are texting me and emailing me, can you please say over the questions or give them a microphone because we don't hear what they're saying. So what if I'm not, let's say on Facebook, and I'm not watching the news, I'm not part of social media, I'm not absorbing secular wisdom, but I'm still having negative thoughts, so where is that coming from?
Like, that have nothing to do with anything, just like random,
So,
disturbing, weird
right.
thoughts.
So what Rabbi Nachman is teaching is that even that is rooted in secular wisdom, that you believe in something that's not true, that's called secular wisdom. The whole concept of secular wisdom is not rooted in reality. So where do disturbing thoughts come from? It comes from some core belief that you have that's not true. That's called secular wisdom. So even if you're no longer watching it, it's not just about not watching it, it's also about removing whatever is still inside of you from having seen it. And that takes time to get rid of. And one of the most effective ways Rabbi Nachman says to get rid of it is through thunder. What's thunder? Praying with intensity, praying with fervor. What does that mean, praying with fervor? Could mean screaming. It could mean praying with a lot of emotion. It means praying with a lot of vigor. And when you do this every single time you pray like that, that secular wisdom leaves your heart. And the more it leaves your heart, the more your thoughts are going to become happy and clear. But that takes time. And this is the reason why the Hasidic masters all say that the greatest damage is done by secular wisdom. And this is the real reason why Hasidim don't allow their kids to go to public schools. It's not because they're living in the past. It's because they're aware that according to Kabbalah, that secular wisdom is one of the hardest things, once you've seen it, to ever get rid of. And you need to go through many, many, many tikkunim, rectifications, different tools and means in order to extricate yourself from those things. I haven't been watching it for years, but I'm still constantly working at trying to rid myself of old ideas, because it is those ideas that are causing the suffering in your life. Because a Jew's natural state is one of hope, it's one of joy, it's one of life, it's one of energy, it's one of love, it's one of connection and peace. And if a person doesn't feel like that, it's because he's not connected to his natural state. And one of Rabbi Nachman's biggest fundamental points is, where is that coming from? It's something that you would never think of, and that's from secular wisdom. And that could also just mean a dynamic from your family that you grew up with. That your parents told you, Rabota, you got to make money. Rabota, you got to be a doctor. You have to be a dentist. You have to be a this. I came from Bukhara so that you can have a good life. I was a potato farmer, but you can be a doctor. And that's what I came here for. And then you're going to be happy. Because they grew up with communism. So they're traumatized. Communism is secular wisdom. The response to that is also secular wisdom. And you come to America, and you think that a certain amount of money is going to make you happy. And according to the Torah, meaning according to truth, there's no connection between the amount of money you have and how happy you are. So now what happens if, let's say, you're trying to leave behind that idea, even though it's not from the TV, and it's not from Facebook, and it's not from this? That's called removing secular wisdom. And it takes time to get rid of. Yeah.
So, about secularism, like all of our life is secular.
That's right.
We're in America, even in Israel, it's all secular.
That's right.
You go to work, it's secular.
You got it.
Go to the store, whatever.
That's right.
You turn on the TV and no Facebook, no YouTube. It's all secular.
That's right.
We're supposed to yell.
You should-
At the top of your lungs.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. You came in one class. You should bring her more often. She's a genius. It would have been funny though. Instead of saying that, you just started screaming at the top of your lungs.
We're on camera.
They don't see you. They just
I
see
know they
me.
can hear me.
Yeah. That's it.
So like other little sects, like the city or
Yeah. You're saying if you're not part of that world, so what are you going to do? So the answer is, you need to So this, no. Because you need to understand that Judaism does not want you to separate yourself from the world. Oh, so one second. Judaism, the difference between, let's say, Buddhism and Judaism and Buddhism. Buddhism also understands all of this. And they believe in separation completely. Where Judaism believes that that's a step in your life, is a separation. But that's only so that you can come back into the world and integrate it. Okay? Meaning, it's not about living in a cave in a mountain. It's about living in normative society with a family and with friends and in a community and having a happy, normal life. But to do that, there needs to be a stage of separation. The quieting of all of the influences that have been flooding you since your birth. There needs to be a period of time that you are separated from that. And if you can't physically be separated, then in your mind. And where do we learn this from? We learn it from Avraham Avinu, the first Jew. Right? That Hashem told Avraham, Lech Lecha. Right? Avraham was the first person to experience God in the world. So he's the first Jew. That's what it means to be Jewish, that you are a soul searcher. You're seeking truth. Right? And now you find God. And what was the first thing that Hashem told Abraham to do? He said, Lech Lecha. Go to yourself. Go for yourself. Where should you go? So he tells him, leave your country, leave the place where you grew up, and leave your father's home. And go to the place that I'm going to show you. So you would think, what would I say? Let's say, for instance, my wife becomes friends with you guys and invites you over for Shabbat. And she says, how do I get to you? So let's say you live in Brooklyn. I want you to leave Brooklyn. I want you to leave, what neighborhood? I want you to leave Flatbush. I want you to leave your father's home and go to the place I'm going to show you. What would you say? I think I'm going to do Shabbat somewhere else. I think I'm going to take a rain check on that plan. Okay, what? He's not telling you where to go. He's just telling you where to leave. That's not a way to you get somewhere. Listen to how deep this is. He's looking for Hashem. He's looking for truth his whole life. Hashem tells him where to go. I want you to leave your society. I want you to leave the place where you grew up. I want you to leave your father's home and go to the place I'm going to show you. Why doesn't he tell him where to go? Why does he only tell him where to leave? Because Hashem is everywhere. So why doesn't he see him? Why doesn't he experience him? Why doesn't he feel him? Because of all of the secular wisdom. And as soon as he removes himself from his society, from his family, from his place he grew up, he immediately will already be in the place he's going to show. Hashem's there. Hashem's always there. It is distorted reality, perception, which is creating the appearance that Hashem is not in all of our lives. So he's telling Abraham, if you can leave behind all of the distortions, you'll be in the place I'm going to show you. And by the way, the Ramban points out that these things, it doesn't say exactly like this, but these things are in increasing psychological difficulty, right? It would be hard for, let's say, you to leave America, but it would be harder for you to leave where you grew up. And the hardest thing for a person to do is to leave their father's home. Meaning what? It's not just talking about physically. Their ways. You could leave America and live somewhere else, and over time but to leave the neighborhood you grew up in and all of the things you grew up with as a kid, that's going to be harder to leave that part of you. And to leave your father's home, meaning what you experienced as a child with your parents, that's the hardest thing to leave behind. And Hashem was telling Abraham, if you leave these 3 things behind, you'll find me. You'll be in the place that I'll show you, called the land of Israel. The land of Israel is the concept of Amunah. It's the concept of Hashem is always with me and everything is good and He loves me. How do you get to experience that? By leaving those places behind. It could take a lifetime. But, and I'll end with this. Does anybody else have a question? I'll say a last thing. Yeah.
Can you define like using mind or heart?
Yeah.
It's not just words.
Okay. So they're related to deep Kabbalistic principles. I'm going to try to simplify it, I guess. Your mind is the mind is the place of your thoughts. Your heart is the place of your feelings. Your body is the place of your actions. So just psychologically speaking, they have already proven this. And this is why, let's say, cognitive behavioral therapy is so effective for people who are struggling, is because the whole concept is to change a person's thoughts to be more positive. And then as a result, they find that their behaviors become more positive and their emotions become more positive. So all they're busy with doing is getting you to focus on what are your natural thoughts, the response that you have to events in your life. You're going to find, if you're in therapy, that your thoughts are distorted, and that's why you're in emotional pain. And when they help you see that your thoughts are distorted, they're going to help you figure out more real thoughts. And when you work to bring those real thoughts into your mind, then you're going to have more positive emotions and better actions. But it's actually rooted in something which is very, very spiritual.
And there's also a lot of the soul.
Yes, that whole process physically is actually a reflection of your soul. And the same process takes place in your soul. You have a concept of thoughts of your soul. You have a concept of emotions of the soul. It's a very deep thing. We're going to have more time. We're going to need more time together to talk about it. So last thing I'm going to say. When a person starts to learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings, they often have this, what's it called? Being stuck between a rock and a hard place. On the one hand, you've rarely heard Torah like this in your life from rabbis. And there's something exciting about it. There's something that's real and authentic about it. There's something that's deeply insightful about it. There's something that's very hopeful about it. Does everybody agree with me or no? No? Not really? You could say no, I don't mind. Yeah, no, you didn't hear, but I'm just saying, anyone else?
Why? Did you say it makes you like happy?
Yeah, why does it make, yeah, it makes you happy, it makes you hopeful in a different way.
Yeah.
It makes you feel a certain type of way.
It makes you like, is this real? Are you sure?
Yeah, right.
It's a different sense of understanding.
Yes, it's a paradigm shift. Okay? It's a different understanding of every part of your life. Okay? So that part is very exciting and it's very hopeful. And that's good. And on the other hand, you realize that this is going to take a lot of work. Yeah. So people who come to these classes for the first time, their response is, but I'm going to have to work really hard if I want to change then. And so I want to teach you something that the Tanya says. This is the creator of Chabad. He was also a founder of a type of Hasidus, which became Chabad. His name is Rav Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He was a student of the main student of the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid Mezrich. He was a genius by any standard. And he starts his magnum opus, which is called Tanya, there's something called a long short road and a short long road. He says that everybody in their life is trying to take the short long road. What does that mean? It means that we are all looking for the quickest way to be happy, to achieve the things that we want in our life. And what ends up happening is we all end up traveling a very long road to get there. That's the short long road. But he says the path of Chassidut, the path of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Nachman, of the Baal Tanya, these are a long, short road.
What did you say?
I can't repeat the whole thing again.
Long, short.
No, no. Did you say that sect of Hasidus is the long short road?
I'm saying all sects of Chassidus. The concept of Chassidus is a long, short road. That when you approach Chassidut, you realize this is going to be a lot more work than you're used to in your Torah Anytime classes. But if you do it, it actually ends up being a very short road. Meaning it looks like this is going to take a very long time, but in fact, when you put your full effort into it, it ends up being a very, very short road. For instance, someone like me that suffered with mental health issues my entire life, diagnosed with learning disorder, anxiety disorder, major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, every disorder under the book. So this is going to take a lot of time for me to get. I mean, obviously the psychological world says I'm never going to get better, right? Because these are genetic disorders and X, Y, and Z. So Rabbi Nachman says it's not true. And I believe him because I've seen that he says things and I do them and it works and the world says it doesn't. And I'm not depressed anymore. I'm the happiest person that I know. So they're wrong. So they're probably wrong about a lot of things. And I thought to myself, like, oh my gosh, this is going to take me a really, really, really long time to reach any state of peace or joy or whatever. But when I put my whole self into it, that long road was actually a very short road. Okay?
How long is that?
It all depends on you.
Yeah.
I'm a very passionate person. I'm like the type of person who does something all the way. When you're not connected to something good, that means substance abuse, that means, all types of things. But if you can use that for good, you can also very quickly do things in that way. So people who are not as, let's say, intense as I am naturally, maybe it'll take them longer. But everything depends on you, what Hashem wants for you, when your time is to blossom. There's like a lot of things that go into when exactly it is that you could reach this state that you're healing. But the main thing is your effort. And your effort doesn't necessarily mean physically, I'm doing something physically, that I'm pushing. It means that you're learning these teachings as much as you can and doing the best that you can in your life to bring them into your life. And the more that you are honest and genuine about that, the shorter that long road is. And one of the big things by Rabbi Nachman is that if you want to know Hashem, and if you want to know good in your life, and you want to know peace in your life, you want to know happiness in your life, you want to know connection in your life, there is one thing you have to leave behind, and if you don't leave this behind, you'll never experience any of those things. It's called being fake. It's called being pretentious. It's called acting a certain way. It's called being sophisticated. One of the things that you'll see amongst any students of Rabbi Nachman is there's a genuineness, there's an authenticness, there's a realness about them. What's the reason? Because Rabbi Nachman says the only way for a person to grow is to be real. And if you're not real, you're never going to grow. And the more real you are, the more you're going to grow. Because Hashem is real. And He's not fake. And He's not ingenuine. He's very simple. And when you become simple, which you already are, but when you allow yourself to, through a lot of courage, despite the fact that you're in the midst of a society that is the opposite of that, and in a generation that is completely the opposite of that, if you have the courage and the strength to be real in a world that's not, then you can achieve tremendous things in your life. Everybody have a great night. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Oh, by the way, we have a kumsitz tomorrow. So this is another one of the extensions of Chassidut. I told you that I sing a lot. So there's a very powerful experience that they do. It's called the kumsitz, or Fabrengen. And that's where they give over Torah, but they do it with live music, and they do it with food, and they do it with drinks. And it's like a organic experience. And this is a very powerful experience for anyone. Tomorrow night is going to be for guys, maybe eventually in the future. So Hashem, maybe we'll even have for both. But if you know any men, and specifically maybe ones that they have not connected to formal teaching, but you feel that they have a side to them that they could if there was a way. So this is a different experience of learning. This is a very different experience of learning. It's probably more like the parties that they're used to going to in the city, but it's really holy and it's really pure and it's really good for them. So anyway, that's tomorrow night, and Bezrat Hashem moving forward, if it works out, Hashem should help us be Matzliach. We're going to do that every Thursday. The next class for women will be Sunday. And last thing is that we really want the organization to continue to grow. We've had really an unfathomable amount of success in a very short amount of time. The amount of people that are watching and where they're watching from. I'm getting emails from people in Texas and from the Midwest and from Florida and from Israel and from Spain. There are a lot of people who are really connecting to this, and not in a little way, but in a way that I can't describe. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what we feel that we can do. But for us to be able to do more, and to, let's say, hire more people to help make it more available to more people and in more places, we're going to need resources to do that. So if you guys feel that you have, or that anyone else has, and they want to contribute to something that's very beautiful and that can really help a lot of people. So we have what's it called? We have a donation page on our website you can go to. Zion Breslov Project.org, and there's a donation page there. You can also do it for Refuah Shlema, for someone who's sick, if you want to do it for someone who passed away, or if you just want to help, period, stam. Let's say you want to give maaser, you want to give tzedakah. I might sound biased, but there's nothing, and I'm not just talking about our organization, but there's nothing better that a person can do than can contribute to someone bringing Rabbi Nachman's teachings to the world. It's really life-changing. And not just for religious Jews, not even just for Jews. Rav Natan, his main student, when he first started hearing him, he was shocked by what he was hearing for himself. And then he started to realize, like, wow, this isn't just for me, this could be for, like, not just, like, for all the Hasidic Jews, they can catch on to this. And then as time went on, he realized, wow, like, this could be something all the Jewish people. And then he realized that this is actually something the whole world could benefit from. And I agree. So if you also do, and you want the zchut, the merit to be a part of it, so we would love the help. Okay? Thank you so much. Everybody have a great day.